Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. After we had our daughter, I got pretty severe postpartum depression. I wasn't myself for about a year, and my marriage slowly fell apart. Everything came to a head when I found out my husband was having an affair, around 4 months, with another woman. We worked through it. We went to counseling. I got help with my depression, and things eventually sorted themselves out and went back to normal. The affair was a little over a year ago. One evening a few months ago, I started to think about this woman. I knew her name, so I looked her up on Facebook. I saw that she made art and looked at her Instagram. Her artwork is beautiful. I found myself checking her Instagram frequently to just look at it. There was one piece that she made around the time of her affair with my husband that really stuck out to me, and I admit, became a bit obsessed with it. I eventually messaged her, telling her who I was and the situation, and asked her if it was for sale. She gave it to me. She sent it in the mail, and when it came to me, I had it framed. I hung it up in our living room last night. When my husband saw it, he immediately recognized it. He got angry and asked me why I would hang it up. I told him that I loved it, and I couldn't explain why. I told him about how I had spoken to her, and he got even more upset. He demanded that I take the picture down. When I asked him why, he told me I was throwing the affair in his face. I tried to explain that it was not my reasoning, but he wouldn't listen. He is threatening to leave if I don't take the picture down, and I think it's an extreme reaction. Am I being an a-hole here and deserving of this response? That's so weird, guys. OP said that she's moved beyond the affair and seemed like she wants to make the marriage work. So she stalks her husband's former mistress and hangs her artwork in their house. Might as well just get the divorce proceedings started if this is how OP is going to behave. My ex-husband and I divorced when our son was 3 months old. His leaving blindsided me because he really wanted a child with me. Anyway, a month after the divorce, he introduced me to his girlfriend and announced that they were 8 months pregnant. I was also informed that he was moving 3 hours away for a better-paying job. So, for the first 4 years of my son's life, we had 1 weekend-a-month arrangement with his dad. When my son was 6 months old, I met my husband. My husband really loves my son and did all the things a typical dad does. After 4 years, my ex moved back, and we settled into an everyday weekend arrangement. In the meantime, I married my husband, and we had 2 kids together. My ex-husband was terrible as a partner, but he did eventually step up and become a decent dad to our son. My husband felt hurt by their new dynamic, but took a step back to allow my son to have a relationship with his biological father. I think it's important to mention that when X lived 3 hours away, my husband offered to adopt our son. X was offended by my husband's request and immediately moved back to our town. He said that he wouldn't let another man steal his firstborn and only son. My husband was hurt, but we let it go. Fast forward to the present. My ex-husband passed away in a drunk driving accident. He was the one hit by the drunk driver. His girlfriend is pregnant with their 4th son. My son was really sad about his biological dad passing away, but he's a tough kid and has quickly adapted to the change. My husband, who he calls Dad, took charge and resumed his full-fledged daddy role. Our family has become whole again, and my husband no longer feels sad about losing his son. My son and my husband feel totally secure in their relationship as father and son. We have now decided as a family that it was time for my husband to officially adopt my son. My son wants the same and is happy about becoming a Williams, like the rest of our family. With my ex-husband being out of the picture, we no longer need his consent to start the adoption process. He was vehemently against it. We also plan to move to another state halfway across the country where there are better schools for our kids and better career prospects. My kids are excited about the move, and we are now looking at new houses. Here comes the complication. My ex-husband's mother is furious about the adoption and our move. She wants her grandchildren to grow up together and doesn't want to lose her grandchild. Honestly, I understand where she's coming from. I told her that I plan to bring my son around for the holidays and that we will visit her when we can. She called me heartless and said that I lacked empathy for her and my ex's girlfriend. I offered my condolences, but remained firm in my decision, as I believe this move will benefit our children immensely. Am I an a-hole? Edit. My son will turn 10 next month. Ex passed away 8 months ago. The thought which contributed towards our decision of going ahead with the adoption as soon as possible. If I were to end up dead tomorrow, my son would legally become an orphan. My husband, the man who raised him since he was a baby, wouldn't have any rights as a father. With his biological father gone, it makes sense for my husband to step up and take the role. I don't want to die tomorrow and have my family break apart because my husband didn't adopt my son. I could easily die in a freak accident and leave my son without any support. That's not what me and my husband want. What does "our family has become whole again" even mean? OP's husband didn't lose his son. He lived with him and loved him. The entire tone of this post is just like, well, thank God he's dead, so now I can make my son totally forget about his bio family. When I was 10, my actual mother gave me up for adoption to a couple in the US, thinking it was a great opportunity for a better life for me. At first, it was truly great. My adoptive parents had a daughter my age, and we soon became best friends. My adopted father, 64 male, always acted the same with me and his daughter, 31 female. I never noticed anything out of place with his behavior when I was growing up, but once I became 14, it sort of changed. At first, my adopted mother would get angry if her husband would talk to me, or when he'd spook me like a simple boo or poke in the back. He would do the same to his daughter, and she'd laugh it off. Later, we both got phones for Christmas, and adopted sister and I would receive texts from him like jokes, or a simple "where are you?" or "when are you coming home?" type stuff. When she saw texts from him on my phone, she blew up, accusing him of cheating on her with me. Of course, this wasn't true, but she just wouldn't let it go. I would cry myself to sleep for months till they got divorced because it felt like I was the cause of it. I was sent to my adopted father's sister's house, where I lived till I graduated high school. The sister was okay, but I kept my distance, scared I'd screw their family up as well. Adopted father paid for my university and housing. I got married soon after university, although he did offer to help money-wise after that, but I refused any more help from him. My adoptive sister was still close to me at the time, and I always had hope adopted mother would warm up to me, seeing I really didn't see her ex-husband that way, but she never did. My adopted sister would confide with me, saying her mother is paranoid and just wants a reason to hate me. She even reasoned I was a gold digger from the get-go, because when I didn't get her husband, I found a rich replacement. I married my husband out of love, and I still work to this day, earning my own money. Soon she became sick, and adoptive sister also became distant. Even on her deathbed, adopted mother didn't wish to see me, which hurt. Now, many years later, when someone mentions women in relationships with older men, I feel a hot flush go over me, like they are talking about me. The past few days have been extremely horrible, with the Mia Farrow documentary everyone is talking about. I don't know how to move past this. I even tried therapy. Like, I'm comfortable talking about it with my husband or a therapist, but when it comes to the real world, people talking around me, it becomes too much. I'm scared of being judged again, and I know great place to come for help, but I don't know. I thought maybe talking about it anonymously would help. I feel for my family's sake I need to make the effort. How do I move past this, and how do I heal from this? OP's adoptive mother had some very unhealthy insecurities about herself and her marriage. She took advantage of OP and her age. Thank goodness for OP's adoptive father. Update. I still somehow blamed myself for what happened with adoptive mother, and with the urging and support of my husband, I talked with my therapist about contacting my adoptive father again. She suggested I take small baby steps, so I first called him via Zoom and didn't mention adoptive mother much, only asked about his health and how my adoptive sister was. He asked about me and my family. Over the course of a few Zoom calls, we gradually got to the subject of adoptive mother and her behavior towards me. At first, adoptive father was vague, calling her insane and that she was just a very vengeful woman, but wouldn't go into detail about her, so I didn't push, as honestly, I was scared of the answer myself. I talked with my adoptive sister also during this time, and it was really lovely connecting with her again. 2 weeks earlier, adoptive father and I decided to meet up for lunch. This time, I don't know what came over me, but I asked him to tell me why adoptive mother felt that way about me. There had to be a reason. Jittery at first, adoptive father admitted he felt kind of to blame for her behavior because before I was adopted, he had a year-long affair, which caused adoptive mother to have a mental breakdown. They had also been struggling with infertility after adoptive sister, and in her head, adoptive mother thought she was to blame for his infidelity. Adoptive father said he tried to assure her he was the one to blame, and they went through couples counseling, but adoptive mother didn't agree with the therapist, saying they were fine, all they needed was another baby in the house. Yes, at first they planned to adopt a baby, but over time, adoptive mother thought a same-age sibling as adoptive sister was a better choice. My country was going through a crisis, and many parents were putting their kids up for adoption, like my mother, and they chose me from a larger binder of kids. Adoptive mother chose me specifically, as I was the same age as adoptive sister, and our birthdays were close. I was 10 at the time, and he said adoptive mother would claim she fell in love with me the second she saw me. He said the first time he saw a change when I turned 12, which was earlier than I thought. She became distant with me and would berate me for the simplest things. Although I do remember this, but I would blame myself at the time, thinking I was a stupid girl, always making mistakes. When adoptive father confronted her about it, they had a huge fight, and she accused him of favoritism, that he was putting me before adoptive sister and cared for me more. Over time, and as I grew up more, that then led to her accusing him having feelings for me, as you all know already. I cried a lot that day, and it took me some time to come to terms with what adoptive father said. I think it helped me a lot to talk here and post my story. Now I know nothing I could have done would have changed the situation, and finally come to terms that I was needlessly put between these two. I would like to thank everyone who gave me encouragement during my first post. Literally years of therapy couldn't help when a few internet strangers did. I'm at a better place with adoptive father now, and even back in contact with adoptive sister. I have reconnected with my family, and my mother now lives with me, so she can bake me all the cookies me and my sister want, so I don't have to steal them. My husband left me 2 years ago for a woman he had been seeing while we were married. They have a small child together, and we have a child together. We had always meant to get a divorce, but things happened, and we never ended up actually filing for one. I had made an appointment to jumpstart the process with an attorney about a month before my husband died. After speaking with his attorney and looking over some information, I learned he had never changed the name on his estate. Although my attorney did say that because we were still legally married, I am the executor regardless. He left a pretty decent amount behind. It bothers me, for some reason, that he thought enough of his girlfriend, fiancée, to leave her for me, but never bothered to change his will to make sure she and his son would be taken care of. I know how it feels to suddenly feel like you are left alone, to fend for yourself. He did that to me in a way. I have long forgiven his trespasses and never really blamed her, for some reason. I have no ill will towards her, and I understand that her young son must be going through a lot at the moment. I don't know what he would want me to do, but what I am wondering is, should I listen to my inner voice and give them a portion of the estate to help ease their transition? I know that no amount of money can comfort the sheer grief of the death of a loved one, but things might be easier if she knew that her son would have a chance at a future. My understanding is that she doesn't have a lot of money on her own. I was thinking of starting a trust in the son's name so that he could one day attend a wonderful university or get training for a future job or something like that. My deceased husband had 2 houses that he owned, and I now own the one they live in. I have no need for that house and wouldn't mind if they continue residing there. My family says that I am crazy for even considering giving her anything, considering the circumstances. In my mind, it happened, and I am sad that my marriage fell apart, but I don't think it was all her fault. I feel like maybe I wasn't a good enough wife, and my husband should have just divorced me when he first had the mind to cheat. I still have some anger over the situation, though, and think she shouldn't have gotten involved with a married man. I worry so much about her son, who, like mine, is now without a father. I know it isn't really my place. What do you guys think? Should I allocate a partial amount of the estate to her and her son? Or should I just leave it as it is and consider it a complete payment for all the horribleness hubby put me through? I am kind of at an impasse here. I don't want to be a horrible person, but I don't want her to think that her getting involved with a married man can ever be a payoff. I am very conflicted. Anyway, help would be appreciated. Thanks. Edit. Update. There are probably some legal implications that I need to consider. I actually have a lawyer to handle this, but wanted to have an idea of what I wanted to do before I meet with him next week. My understanding is that she doesn't have any representation, but I would be more than willing to work with her lawyer if she obtained one in the future. I want to be fair most of all. I am also sorry for the delay in response. I took my son out on an early dinner date. We have a standing date every Wednesday, and we never miss it. I made it a point to ask him what he thought, because he and I made a pact long ago that we would make decisions as a family whenever we could. He thought it was a good idea to help his brother because he didn't want Liam to suffer, and I want to be a good big brother, even though I don't get to see him a lot. I plan to address any legal issues with my attorney at our next meeting and discuss the idea of a trust and whether the son has legal claim to the money. Based on your question, sounds like OP already knows the answer, but just needs to be validated. OP's compassion is rare. I think OP should allow them to live rent-free in the home, but without transferring the title. It is OP's. I think OP should have her attorney devise a tenant contract. And also, she should set up a trust for the child. Personally, I wouldn't share the proceeds until speaking to a professional about financial obligation to his son.